Hi, my name is Regina Din.
I'm Ivana Juarez.
And I'm Maria Rojas, and this is week 4, saponification of triglycerides. So again, this is our background and proposal. We just want to create eco-friendly soap using the saponification process based on hydrolysis of fats to stay hygienic during the pandemic, while also reducing soap packaging waste production.
Okay. So last week in week 3, what we were hoping to achieve was to figure out if we can find basically the perfect amount of lye that our soaps needed, because we had on some of our weeks we had felt like a tingling sensation, or it was too drying, or felt like our hands were in the beginning too rough or something like that. So we wanted to see to kind of test around with lye and see what we could get. So what we ended up doing for week 3 trial 1, we lowered down our lye from 9.4 to a 9.2. And for week 3 trial 2, we lowered down our what was our 9.4 grams of lye to our 9.0 grams of lye. So for this, we were initially using BDH pH strips, and of course we ran out. So then we use another brand of precision pH strips, which is why you see 2 columns. Don't be alarmed. It's just we wanted to have them side to side to kind of see the difference in results based on the 2 different brands. So to figure out our pH levels, what we did first is we diluted from a 1 to 5 ratio of soap to water. And then we realized that we got kind of still the same high amount of pH, so the 10.5. Somewhere back then, previous week was even to an 11. And we were wondering why they weren't lowering down, even though it had an extra week of curing time. And that's when we got feedback from Dr. Yan and said that we might have to further dilute our solution. So what we did then was we took a drop of the 1 to 5 ratio soap to water that we had already, and took a drop of that and then pour that into a 10 millimeter of water to further dilute. So a total 15 millimeters of water were used for 1 gram of soap. Um, so as we see, week 1, trial 1, the brand of pH strips that we were using was a 10 to 10.5, which was leaning more towards the 10. The precision pH strips were in 8 to 9, leaning more towards the 8. So we knew that was way too low for our legging, which our soap should be through a 9 through 10. Our week 2 was at a 10.5 solid. And then our precision pH strips told us it was at 7 and 8, leaning towards more to 7. So it was too neutral. Week 3 trial 1 was our BDH pH strips told us it was 10 to a 10.5, leaning more towards the 10, which was a very positive thing. And our precision pH strips were from a 9 to 10. Our week 3 trial 2 was a solid 10.5, and our precision pH strips told us that it was an 8 to a 9, leaning more towards an 8. So the significance of these pH differences was because our soap, based on our references and based on our articles and research findings, is that soap is meant to stay at a range between 9 and 10. So the only trial that was within that range of 9 and 10 was week 3 trial 1, which happened to be the week where we adjusted our lye. So because of this, we found that this was basically the perfect amount of lye for the amount of grams that we use for olive oil and for the amount of shea butter that we use. We decided then to make the decision of, instead of using the 9.4 grams, we would use 9.2 grams of lye for soap making.
So again, for this week, we realized that the amount of lye that we used last week from adjusting from 9.4 to 9.2 and 9.0, we ended up using the 9.2 because it gave us the desired pH range. So since we have that range, we decided to adjust the olive oil. So instead of using 50 grams of olive oil, we ended up using 40 grams. So that changed the ratio of shea butter and olive oil from 1 to 2 to now a 1 to 1.7, with the 1.7 being the olive oil. We're also increasing the amount of time that we're using to blend the soap mixture to achieve a thicker trace and less of a watery consistency. So again, we're using 9.2 because that gave us the desired pH range. And after testing the soaps from the previous week with the 9.2 and the 9.0, we noticed that the consistency and the overall texture on our hands felt very similar to the previous soaps that we made, but we wanted the soaps to lather a bit more when we were washing them. So we ended up again lowering the amount of olive oil, since soaps that are higher in olive oil content don't lather as well because it olive oil itself olive oil on its own doesn't contribute to lather.
Hear ye, hear ye. So what we're gonna do now is to check on the soap again after 7 days. Check the pH just to make sure if it's correct or appropriate. Again, to 9% is the perfect pH levels. And if everything works accordingly, we will shorten the cure time. So basically, instead of doing a cold press soap, we will do a hot press soap. And basically, with the hot press, it's basically heating the soap mixture on a hot plate instead of cooling it off on room temperature, and it will shorten the amount of cure time of the soap. So, and we are also thinking of testing the pH of the other common soaps like Dove to use as a control and for comparison. All right, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the presentation. And if you have any questions, let us know.